Wow, that was quick, wasn't it? I'm almost done weaving, and you can see this end where it's come over the top back of the loom, and I'm almost finished. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to zero in, and a couple of things we don't always show, or people don't always show when they're weaving, is what do you do when you empty one bobbin or your shuttle and you need to start another thread. I'm going to show you what I do, and there are many other ways of doing it. As you can see, I'm at the end. This one is finished. So this one reaches almost to the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this thread, I'm going to pull it through the other side, and then what literally I do is I'm going to take this shuttle's going to go through, but I'm going to go to about 2 inches, so it's ending about here. I'm going to bead it, and now there is an overlap there. Once the fabric is washed and finished, it's going to be very hard to see where it is. Now, if it had been sticking out on the end, I would have taken my scissors and I would have trimmed this right after I started weaving again. Some people wait till they're done. I like to keep things neat and tidy, and then when I get to the end, I don't have as much work to do. So I'm going to show you, see how much I have left to do. Again, I'm trying to use as much of the warp as possible. This is going to be the scarf, remember, and the leftover or the waist is actually the fringe. So hopefully when I'm done here, I won't have that much left. Now we also talked about draw-in. This is a good time to look at that. It was, at this point, 10 inches in the reed, and then it went down to about 9, so I lost an inch. Now, we're going to probably lose another inch after it's washed. So I'm going to bring it a little bit farther. But what's going to happen is as that back rod gets closer and closer, I'm not going to be able to get much of a shed. If this was really expensive yarn, I might change to a stick shuttle and try to squeeze in as much as I can. Right now, I'm kind of playing the idea that perhaps I can empty this bobbin. I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not. Let's see what happens. Try to go a little bit, and you see I stop, I don't get too close. Let's roll a little bit more. See what happens now. I still have a pretty good shed. It's already starting to be finicky. I can feel it. What's also fun about the thick and thin yarn, it really adds some nice texture. The other thing, if you're a new weaver and using thick and thin on the side, kind of hides that the selvage is a little funky. Oh boy, we're getting there. I'm going to squeeze much more. I'm going to have to kind of give a little extra tug because the bobbin's a little lighter now. So a little bit slower to try to catch those edges. And we're here. And again, if I'm at the end, so I usually just loop it over the one, pull it through, bead it, and then right now, I trim that. So I'm going to say I'm finished for now. I'm going to release the tension, and we'll see how much we actually have. Okay, not too bad. Not too shabby. Okay. So there's probably, let's see what we have. I probably could squeeze a little bit more if I wanted to. Yep, about 16 inches of loom waste is what we would say. Now the next thing will be to cut it off the loom. This is sometimes like, oh no, what are we doing? We're cutting it off the loom. I'm going to cut it back here. You can cut it on either side. I'm going to hold on to the rod, cut this off. You can see it. And so this is going to be thrown away. And now we'll go back to the loom. So now one thing you notice, since I'm going to be tying knots or twisting it, I didn't do any hem stitching. Some people, when you're a new weaver, and I know I did the same thing, it was the idea like, oh my, it's going to unravel, it's all going to fall apart right away. It's not going to fall apart right away. If I did not want to do overhand knots or fringe, the last row I would have hem stitched on both ends. But again, you take it off carefully. It's not coming apart right away. And then the fun part, at least I think it's the fun part, is winding everything off the loom. So we'll start it here. Make sure you can see what's happening. And we wind it. I like to roll it. We can watch it. Comes off the loom. Kind of fun. And there we are. Oh, coming off the loom. Now, what you can do, what I like to do is just slide the rod out. That's finished. And like I said earlier, by just doing those overhand knots, they come out so easily. And that's the other thing. Again, people think, oh no, everything's going to fall apart right away. It's not going to fall apart right away. As long as you were beading it properly, you're okay. So I can take all those little knots out. Those overhand knots. And now I have my scarf. So the next thing is I'm going to show you overhand knotting or twisting the fringe. So here's your decision. If you want to do something and have a nice kind of fluffy fringe, you can decide how many you want to take. In this case, this was 8 ends per inch. So perhaps I might take 4, and I could take it and do what we call an overhand knot, like that. And then what happens is you tighten it up as tight as you can up to the top there. That's one way. I don't want to tighten it because I want to show you something else. Well, let's say I did tighten that one. Or another thing that's very nice is to do a twisted fringe. So you could, if you want a lot of fringe, and here you have choices again. You could take 2 strands and 2 strands and twist them together. I'm going to, for this example, take 3 and 3. And twisting means to twist them. I know there's fringe twisters out there. You twist them and twist them as tight as you can until they almost curl a little bit. You put them together and then you twist it. It almost twists itself on the other side. Then it's good to put an overhand knot in the bottom. So you have that fringe done. Bring it up here. And you would tighten the end. Then what you'd want to do is you want to get a ruler and measure how long that is, and you would continue working across. What's nice, I suggest doing is if you start at one end and then maybe go to the other and go back and forth, or do maybe 3 or 4, because you may end up in the middle. You started perhaps with 3 on one end and 3 and 3, and all of a sudden you get to the middle and you only have 4 threads left. Well, go ahead and just twist 2 and 2 together, or whatever happens. If you want to be very, very accurate, you can also use your calculator and determine, well, 80 ends per inch, I can do 2 and 2, or you can decide that. Again, that's up to you. Now, those are those spaces we had earlier, and what's going to happen is, as we start to do our fringe, however you decide to do it, those spaces will start to go away. Then the other thing to do also is, if you're doing the twisted, you can, after you tighten this knot is not tight enough, then you can cut this end off. What I would recommend is if you're going to do it this way, then you want to do both ends and then cut them both the same length before you and then wash it. So those are my suggestions for finishing the fringe. And you can see we have a very nice scarf there to play around with. It'll be fun to see what happens after it's washed. All right, like I said, we're all finished. After I tied the knots, and they're very tight on the ends, then I went by and trimmed all those edges. And then what I'll be doing is going to the other side. And also what happened was I found out that when I was doing 3 and 3, I ended up with a different math in the middle. But when you're done, all the fringes look nice. The other reason why my preference is to twist the fringe, and you can also braid them, is that they're going to last longer. They don't get tangled and twisted. They're a little more tidy, and I think they look a little more upscaled. Again, this has not been washed yet, so this particular thread here, once it's washed, things will start to shrink up together, and it won't be as noticeable. When I'm finished, I'll take another picture, and I'll do that under my light table so we actually get a better color of this. So, again. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact me at my email, maverickson0@gmail.com, and the 0 is a number 0. You can also find me through Facebook under Opalescence Fiber Studio, and also through the Etsy shop Maverickson. We also offer private lessons via Zoom or in person in our studio. Thanks for watching, and happy weaving.